Hello, my name is Caitlin Klug, and I'm here today to tell you about the ethical use of information. To start with, what does the ethical use of information even mean? The ethical use of information means using information ethically and properly. You may then ask, what is ethics? Ethics is typically referred to as a standard of right and wrong that defines exactly what humans are supposed to do or not do. In other words, give credit. When we don't give credit, we have to talk about plagiarism. Plagiarism is the accidental or intentional use of someone else's ideas or works without properly citing the author. It's our responsibility to not only know what plagiarism is, but to help prevent our students from plagiarizing. Knowing how to cite sources is important for writing for state testing, for their upper grade school grades, and on to their college years if they choose that path. In my classroom, I typically harp on using quotation marks and telling the reader when we write where they got their information from, because we don't steal, we are not thieves, is what I tell my students. So I thought this was a good little graphic to share. Now let's move on to copyright. What is copyright? It's a form of protection laid out by our Constitution for original works and material, either published or unpublished. Copyright protects authors from having their work copied, taken, etc. Anything created after January 1978 is covered by copyright for the amount of time the author is alive, plus 70 years after they have died. For example, Shakespeare and Charles Dickens are in public domain and are no longer protected under copyright laws. Copyright doesn't apply to facts and public information, print maps, or government documents or pictures, so images and text from sources like NASA, the Smithsonian, and the National Archives can be used without permission. The fair use doctrine does allow some freedom of expression by allowing the use of copyrighted material, typically if piece is evaluated for fair use by 4 factors. What was the work used for? What was the nature of the work? How much work did you use? And what is the value of the work? Here's an infographic laying out the do's and don'ts of copyright and fair use. Do assume all material is copyright protected. Do give credit whenever possible, like link a URL or give a date. Do use up to 10% of a copyrighted work for educational reasons. Do keep in mind some companies aggressively monitor for infringement. Don't assume any use is fair use just because it's for education. Don't claim another work as your own. Don't copy and distribute entire or large portions of copyrighted works. And don't substitute copying for the purchase of copyrighted content. Carolyn Lagola with EduTopia lays out some tips to protect yourself from copyright. 1. Limit exposure. Only share content on password-protected places for your students like Google Classroom or Canvas, and share only with students in your class. Use Google Tools settings. After a search for an image has produced results, click Tools/Usage Rights/Creative Commons license to filter the images. You can install browser extensions like icons for free images to use. You can use sites that have free ebooks like Project Gutenberg where their copyright has expired. You can bookmark Creative Commons websites. You can use free audiobooks. You can use resources from government sites like NASA and Smithsonian. You can purchase enough copies for each student or obtain permission from the owner to make copies. Avoid copying and distributing creative material like novels, plays, poems, movies, etc., more likely to be exempt from fair use. And use published sources. Do not copy and give out unpublished material. I have a link from that EduTopia website, and I highly suggest you take a look at that because it has a lot of information and links in there as well for you to use. And then I found these rules to remember that I wanted to share from the EDU blogger that is similar to the tips just previously mentioned, but a little easier to remember. You could print this out and put it on your bulletin board if you wanted to. It says, 1, just because you found it online doesn't mean it's free to use, even if you're a teacher or a student. 2, there are a lot of resources you can use freely, including work that has a Creative Commons license or is in the public domain. 3, you have a right as a creator to have your work protected from copying, and you can also give your own content a Creative Commons license. If in doubt about using content, ask the creator for permission, find a free alternative, and purchase an alternative, or make your own material. 5, instead of looking for loopholes, consider whether you're being the most responsible and ethical digital citizen you can be. And to end, I have included my references to all of the websites, articles, and images that I've used in this presentation because, of course, it's important to cite your sources. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation.